the world is watching in disbelief. A small landlocked country in West Africa has just made an announcement that has shaken technology experts, political leaders, and innovators across the globe. It is not the United States, not China, not Germany, not Japan. It is Burkina Faso. A country often dismissed as poor and dependent has stepped forward with inventions that are not only bold but revolutionary. 3 innovations designed and built in Africa are now forcing the world to rethink its assumptions. They are not copies. They are not imported blueprints. They are the work of local hands, young minds, and visionary leadership. And the news spread so fast that even Elon Musk, a man whose name is synonymous with cutting-edge innovation, is said to be shocked. The reason is simple. No one expected Burkina Faso to challenge the global status quo in technology. No one imagined this nation, with no billion-dollar factories and no global brand names, would suddenly introduce ideas capable of rivaling major powers. The story begins not in Silicon Valley or Shanghai, but in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. In recent months, the government, led by President Ibrahim Traoré, has unveiled 3 major technological breakthroughs. A saltwater purification system, a military-grade electric truck, and precision farming drones. Each invention addresses a pressing problem. Each one is designed specifically for African realities. And together, they represent something larger, a declaration of independence. For decades, Africa has been portrayed as a continent waiting for aid, waiting for rescue, waiting for solutions from others. But now Burkina Faso has sent a different message. It is no longer waiting. It is building. It is leading. The world did not see this coming. Analysts in Washington, Paris, and Brussels are still asking the same question: how did Burkina Faso do it? How did a country long described as fragile and poor suddenly deliver such powerful innovations? The answer lies in a mix of necessity, courage, and leadership. President Ibrahim Traoré, a young leader with a fierce belief in self-reliance, has declared that Burkina Faso will no longer be defined by what it lacks. Instead, it will be defined by what it creates. He has challenged his people to believe in their own capacity to build, to invent, to innovate. And in an astonishingly short period, they have responded. This moment is bigger than a single country. It challenges the global narrative that technology must come from the wealthy, that progress can only be imported. Burkina Faso has proven that innovation is not about resources alone. It is about determination. It is about vision. It is about the courage to act when the world expects nothing. The announcement of these inventions created a wave of disbelief. Western media, which usually rushes to cover conflicts or crises in Africa, gave little attention. Some outlets mentioned it briefly. Others ignored it completely. But in African capitals, the reaction was explosive. From Bamako to Accra, from Lagos to Kampala, people shared the news with pride. Hashtags trended across social media. Students in universities asked, "Why not us?" For the first time in a long time, an African government was not asking for permission, not asking for help, but showing results. The symbolism was powerful. A Burkinabé military truck rolling silently through the streets. Drones hovering above farmland in rural villages. Children drinking clean water from a purification unit built in their own country. These images spread quickly, igniting a sense of possibility across the continent. And this is where the story shocks the global elite. It is not just about Burkina Faso. It is about the idea that Africa can build, that Africa can leapfrog, that Africa can rise not by copying others, but by solving its own problems with its own solutions. For years, Elon Musk and others have dominated the global conversation about electric vehicles, sustainable energy, and futuristic technology. But now, a small African nation has entered the conversation with real-world applications that are already in use. Burkina Faso did not wait for the future. It built it. The saltwater purification system tackles one of the greatest threats to the Sahel region, water scarcity. The electric truck challenges the notion that only advanced economies can pioneer military mobility in the green era. The precision drones prove that agriculture in Africa can be high-tech, efficient, and resilient. 3 inventions, 1 message: Africa is no longer a passive observer. It is a participant. It is a creator. This is why the story matters, because it is not only about machines and technology. It is about dignity. It is about sovereignty. It is about reclaiming the narrative of what Africa is capable of. When news of these breakthroughs reached Western think tanks, a quiet discomfort began. If Burkina Faso can do this with limited funds, what might larger African economies achieve? If Burkina Faso can innovate without foreign aid, what does that say about decades of dependency promoted by international institutions? And if Burkina Faso can inspire its neighbors, what does that mean for the balance of power on the continent? The truth is undeniable. Burkina Faso has shocked the world. It has rewritten expectations. And it has reminded everyone that innovation is not the monopoly of the rich. It is the right of every nation willing to try. This is only the beginning of the story. In the next part, we will look at each of the three inventions in detail. We will explore how they work, why they matter, and how they are already changing lives in Burkina Faso. Because behind the headlines, there are communities transformed, soldiers empowered, and farmers given new hope. Burkina Faso did not enter the global stage with vague promises or abstract ideas. It came forward with three concrete inventions. Each one addresses a challenge that is urgent not only for the country, but for much of Africa. Each one is designed with simplicity, efficiency, and local conditions in mind. The saltwater to freshwater purification system. Water is life. In the Sahel, water scarcity is one of the greatest threats to survival. The region faces droughts, desertification, and unpredictable rainfall. Entire villages often walk for hours to reach wells, and many of those wells run dry or produce unsafe water. International organizations have poured billions into water projects across Africa, but access remains limited. This is where Burkina Faso's first invention comes in: a saltwater to freshwater purification system. Unlike large desalination plants in the Middle East or Europe, this technology is compact, affordable, and designed for rural use. It uses minimal energy, making it suitable for areas without stable electricity grids. The system takes saline or brackish water from underground sources and transforms it into clean, drinkable water. It requires little maintenance, which means villages can operate it themselves without waiting for foreign technicians. Most importantly, it was designed and built by Burkinabé engineers using locally available parts. This invention is more than a machine. It is a shield against climate change. It ensures that families can drink safely, farmers can irrigate their fields, and children can grow without constant risk of waterborne diseases. The purification system is already installed in rural communities, and the results are visible. Children are healthier. Farmers no longer abandon fields due to water shortages. Teachers report that students spend more time in classrooms because they are not walking long distances for water. This technology proves that innovation does not need to be imported. It can grow in the very soil where the problem exists. Africa's first military-grade electric truck, the second invention, is perhaps the most symbolic. A military-grade electric truck. This is the first of its kind built in Africa. It shocked analysts because Burkina Faso does not have a traditional automotive industry. It has no giant car factories, no global car brands, and no advanced supply chains. And yet its engineers produced a rugged, zero-emission vehicle capable of serving the country's armed forces. The electric truck is not a luxury design. It was built with military needs in mind. Silent motors allow soldiers to move undetected in hostile terrain. Strong batteries provide long operational range. The truck can handle rough roads, deserts, and rural landscapes where traditional vehicles often fail. For Burkina Faso's army, this is a breakthrough. It reduces reliance on imported fuel. It strengthens self-sufficiency in defense. And it demonstrates that African militaries can innovate with their own resources rather than waiting for donations from abroad. When the first prototype rolled through the streets of Ouagadougou, it was met with cheers. Citizens celebrated not just because it was electric. They celebrated because it was theirs, built by their own engineers for their own defense in their own country. The symbolism cannot be overstated. For decades, African armies have been dependent on second-hand vehicles from Europe, Asia, or America. Now, One of the poorest countries on the continent has built something new, original, and suited to its environment. The electric military truck is more than a vehicle. It is a declaration of independence. Precision farming drones, the third invention, may have the most long-term impact. Agriculture is the backbone of Burkina Faso. Most families rely on farming for survival, but climate change, poor soil, and outdated practices have kept yields low. Farmers work hard, yet many still face hunger and poverty. Enter precision farming drones. These drones are not imported models adapted to African fields. They are homegrown machines designed specifically for Burkina Faso's needs. They can fly autonomously over farmland, planting seeds with pinpoint accuracy. They monitor soil conditions in real time, alerting farmers when moisture levels drop or when crops show signs of disease. They reduce waste by applying fertilizer and water only where needed. And they save time, allowing farmers to focus on other tasks. For smallholder farmers, this is transformative. Instead of relying on guesswork, they can now farm with data-driven precision. Instead of losing crops to drought or poor soil, they can respond quickly and effectively. Already, farmers using the drones report higher yields. They produce more food with fewer resources. In a region where food insecurity has long been a crisis, this technology offers hope. But the impact is not only economic, it is also psychological. Farmers in Burkina Faso are no longer passive recipients of foreign aid programs. They are participants in a technological revolution. They see drones flying over their fields and know these machines were created in their own country. That knowledge builds pride, confidence, and ambition. A collective message taken together, these three inventions send a clear message. Burkina Faso is not trying to catch up. It is leapfrogging. It is skipping outdated models and building solutions that respond directly to African problems. Clean water where wells run dry. Electric military trucks where fuel is scarce. Precision drones where hunger has been constant. Each invention solves a specific crisis, but together they represent something greater, the birth of an African model of innovation. Unlike imported technologies, these inventions are designed for resilience. They are simple, affordable, and adaptable. They can be repaired locally, scaled nationally, and shared regionally. And they come with something no foreign product can provide: ownership. Burkina Faso owns its future. It is no longer defined by dependency. It is defined by invention. This is why experts around the world are unsettled. If one small country can achieve this, what happens when others follow? What happens when Africa decides to stop waiting and start building? That is the question now echoing across think tanks, newsrooms, and government offices. But inside Burkina Faso, the questions are different. They are not asking if they can. They are asking what comes next. What else can be built? What other challenges can be solved? And how far can this movement of self-reliance go? The answer lies in the vision of the leader who inspired it, President Ibrahim Traoré. Now we will explore how this revolution became possible, how it began not with wealth but with determination, and how a nation long dismissed as weak is now rewriting the rules of innovation. How these breakthroughs were made possible, the leadership of President Ibrahim Traoré, the rejection of dependency, and the mobilization of local talent. When news of Burkina Faso's inventions first reached the global stage, many asked the same question. How did this happen? How could a country with limited infrastructure, low GDP, and no established manufacturing industry suddenly produce such advanced technologies? The answer lies in a story of vision, courage, and necessity. It did not begin in foreign laboratories or with billion-dollar investments. It began in classrooms, workshops, and military bases across Burkina Faso. It began with a leader who dared to believe in self-reliance. President Ibrahim Traoré's vision. Ibrahim Traoré came to power with a message that resonated deeply with his people. He declared that Burkina Faso would no longer be defined by what it lacks. Instead, it would be defined by what it creates. For decades, previous governments relied heavily on foreign aid and international donors. Every major project seemed tied to outside approval. Every new development plan depended on loans, grants, or imported solutions. But Traoré broke with that model. He openly rejected the passive dependency that had shaped so much of Africa's post-colonial history. His administration launched what insiders called the National Self-Reliance Plan. This was not just a slogan, it was a blueprint for mobilizing the country's internal strengths. The plan prioritized local talent, local resources, and local innovation. It aimed to use what was already available, no matter how modest, and transform it into something powerful. Traore's philosophy was simple: we build because we need, not because we are rich. If we wait for permission, we will always remain behind. Mobilizing local talent, the real engine of Burkina Faso's technological revolution, was its people. Technical universities, vocational schools, and military workshops became hubs of experimentation. Students, engineers, farmers, and even retired soldiers joined hands to design, test, and improve prototypes. Many of these institutions had been overlooked for years. They lacked funding, equipment, and recognition. But under Traore's leadership, they were revived. Vocational schools adjusted their curricula to focus on applied technologies that directly address national needs. Military workshops, once used only for repairing old vehicles, were converted into production centers for new machines. It was not easy. There were no billion-dollar research grants. There were no multinational corporations investing millions. What existed was determination, creativity, and a refusal to accept dependency as destiny. A young engineer, speaking anonymously for security reasons, described it clearly. "We did not build these things because we had money. We built them because we had no choice. If we waited, our people would remain thirsty, hungry, and unprotected. So we acted." This mindset, born of necessity, proved more powerful than money. Building for necessity, not luxury. One of the most striking aspects of Burkina Faso's inventions is their practicality. These are not flashy designs meant to impress outsiders. They are functional machines meant to solve urgent problems. The water purification system was designed because villages were suffering from thirst and disease. The electric truck was built because fuel dependency left the military vulnerable. The drones were created because farmers were losing crops to drought and poor soil management. Each invention came from a direct response to real pain. They were not built for export markets or international showcases. They were built for survival, and that is precisely why they work. By focusing on necessity, Burkina Faso avoided the trap of copying Western models that often fail in African contexts. Its engineers did not try to build luxury cars or complicated systems that require advanced supply chains. They built rugged, efficient, and adaptable technologies suited to their environment. Breaking psychological barriers, perhaps the greatest achievement of this process, was not the machines themselves, but the mindset they created. For decades, Africa was fed the belief that innovation must come from outside, that high technology must be imported, licensed, or borrowed. Burkina Faso shattered that belief. When local engineers saw their prototypes succeed, they realized something powerful. They could do it. They did not need to wait for foreign experts. They did not need to copy others. They could build their own solutions. This psychological shift is as important as the inventions themselves. It changes the way a nation sees itself. It transforms citizens from passive consumers into active creators. It turns dependency into dignity. The absence of foreign aid, one of the most surprising elements of Burkina Faso's success, is that it was achieved without foreign aid. There were no massive grants from international institutions. There were no contracts with global corporations. There was no outside sponsorship shaping the agenda. Instead, these innovations were funded and built internally. Local communities contributed. The military provided resources. Universities supplied talent. This independence made the project slower and more difficult at first. But it also made them truly sovereign. Because they were built without outside control, the inventions belong fully to Burkina Faso. No foreign company owns the patents. No donor agency dictates their use. They are African creations, born of African necessity, leadership and sacrifice. None of this would have been possible without political will. Traore and his team faced criticism, resistance, and doubt. Opponents accused them of isolationism. Analysts claimed the projects would fail. but the government persisted. They redirected resources away from dependency-driven programs. They invested in local workshops instead of foreign contractors. They empowered students, engineers, and soldiers to lead the projects. And they made sacrifices. Some luxuries were cut from the budget. Some international programs were declined, all to prioritize independence. It was a gamble, but it paid off. From vision to reality today, the results speak for themselves. Water purification units are producing clean water for villages. Electric trucks are rolling through Burkinabé streets. Drones are buzzing above fields, planting seeds with precision. What once seemed impossible has become reality, and the world is beginning to realize that this is not a temporary miracle. It is the beginning of a new model of development, a model where African nations do not wait for aid, do not depend on foreign corporations, and do not accept the myth of incapacity, a model where necessity, vision, and determination create innovation that rivals global powers. A movement, not just a moment. What happened in Burkina Faso is more than a single success story. It is a movement that could spread across Africa. Already, students in Ghana, Nigeria, and Mali are asking, if Burkina Faso can do it, why not us? Already, regional leaders are studying the Burkinabé model. The spark has been lit. The question now is how far it will spread. This section will cover how Africa celebrated these breakthroughs, how the West responded with silence or confusion, and how analysts started rethinking Africa's role in innovation. The unveiling of Burkina Faso's 3 modern inventions sent ripples across Africa and beyond. But the reactions were not the same everywhere. In Africa, the news spread like wildfire, igniting pride, hope, and determination. In the West, the response was muted, cautious, and in some cases, dismissive. The contrast in reactions reveals much about how the world sees Africa and how Africa is beginning to see itself. Muted Western response when the first reports of Burkina Faso's water purification system, electric truck, and agricultural drones surfaced. Major Western news outlets barely noticed. Some offered short summaries. Others ignored the story completely. The silence was telling. Western media has long been quick to highlight Africa's struggles, conflicts, coups, and crises often make global headlines. But when a breakthrough occurs, the coverage is either absent or downplayed. This was no exception. For policymakers and think tanks in Europe and the United States, the news sparked more confusion than celebration. Analysts who had written off Burkina Faso as unstable or irrelevant were forced to reconsider. If a landlocked, low-income country under constant pressure from insecurity could build 3 groundbreaking technologies, what did that mean for the rest of Africa? And what did it say about decades of foreign aid that had failed to deliver similar results? In quiet policy circles, conversations began. Some experts described the moment as a potential Burkina shock, a realization that Africa may not remain dependent forever. Others worried about the geopolitical consequences of African nations developing their own defense and agricultural technologies without Western oversight. One European strategist was quoted privately as saying, "This challenges our entire development model. If they can do this without us, then our influence diminishes." African pride and celebration in Africa, the story was entirely different. From the moment the news broke, social media platforms across the continent lit up. Photos of the electric truck circulated on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Videos of drones flying above fields were shared in WhatsApp groups from Lagos to Kampala. Images of villagers drinking clean water from purification units appeared on TikTok feeds in Ghana and Senegal. The reaction was explosive. Hashtags like FayAfricaCanBuild and FayTRATech trended across multiple countries. Commentators called it not just an innovation, but a liberation. For the first time in years, African youth saw a government not asking for aid, but delivering solutions. University students in Mali and Nigeria began organizing discussions around how their own countries could replicate Burkina Faso's model. Civil society groups in Ghana and Uganda invited Burkinabé engineers to regional conferences. Editorials in African newspapers described the inventions as a turning point and a warning shot to complacent leaders. A Nigerian columnist wrote a powerful line that resonated across the continent. This is not only a win for Burkina Faso, this is a signal to Africa. The age of excuses is over. The regional ripple effect, the inventions, also gained attention at the political level. Regional bodies such as the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the Self-Reliance began to discuss Burkina Faso not as a burden but as a test case. For decades, the country had been viewed as an aid recipient reliant on external support for survival. Now it was seen as a pioneer of self-reliance. Mali and Guinea, which share similar challenges, expressed interest in replicating aspects of the Burkinabé model. Talks began about possible joint ventures for water purification units and agricultural drone production. For the first time, regional cooperation was being discussed not in terms of external funding, but in terms of African-led technology networks. This shift is historic. If neighboring countries follow Burkina Faso's lead, West Africa could see the birth of a locally driven innovation ecosystem. An ecosystem that does not depend on Paris, Washington, or Beijing, but on African knowledge and resources. The power of symbolism, perhaps the most important reaction, was not political or economic, but psychological. For decades, many Africans believed that real innovation only came from the outside, that the role of the continent was to consume, not to create. Burkina Faso shattered that belief. When the electric truck first rolled through the streets of Ouagadougou, people did not cheer because it was electric. They cheered because it was Burkinabé. When drones flew above rural farms, farmers did not marvel at the technology alone. They marveled at the fact that it was theirs. When clean water flowed from purification units, villagers did not only celebrate the end of thirst, they celebrated independence. This shift in mindset may be the most powerful outcome of all. Because once people believe they can build, they will never go back to waiting. A new wave of African ambition in classrooms and universities across the continent. The inventions of Burkina Faso are now case studies. Engineering professors use them as examples of what is possible. Students look at them as proof that they do not need to leave Africa to change the world. Enrollment in science and engineering programs in Burkina Faso itself has surged. Young people are inspired not by distant Silicon Valley dreams, but by real success stories happening within their borders. And across Africa, a new question echoes in student halls and farmer cooperatives alike: what else can we build? This is the essence of Burkina Faso's impact. It is not only the machines, it is the spirit of possibility. The UNISI West, meanwhile, Western analysts remain cautious. They cannot ignore the fact that these inventions exist, but they struggle to frame them within their usual narratives of aid and dependency. Some dismiss the breakthroughs as small scale, arguing they cannot match the scale of Western technology. Others admit quietly that the symbolism is more important than the machines themselves. Because if Burkina Faso can inspire its neighbors, the geopolitical map could shift. In Washington, Berlin, and Paris, the concern is not only about Burkina Faso's success, it is about what comes next. If Nigeria, Ghana, or Ethiopia adopt the same model, the balance of influence could change dramatically. For the first time, African countries could negotiate with the world not as dependent partners, but as innovators. This is the fear behind the muted Western reaction. Celebrating Burkina Faso too loudly would mean admitting that Africa does not need saving. And that is a narrative many are not ready to embrace. Conclusion of reactions, the unveiling of these inventions revealed two different worlds. One where Africa sees itself as rising, and one where the West struggles to accept that rise. One filled with pride, excitement, and ambition. The other filled with silence, hesitation, and unease. But silence cannot stop progress. Across Africa, the story of Burkina Faso has already been written into the hearts of millions. And that story is clear: innovation does not belong to the West alone. Africa can build. Burkina Faso has proven it. This part will focus on how ordinary Burkinabé citizens are experiencing these inventions in their daily lives. Clean water in villages, drones helping farmers, and trucks supporting security. Revolutions are not measured only by speeches or headlines. They are measured by what happens in the lives of ordinary people. In Burkina Faso, the 3 inventions unveiled under President Ibrahim Traoré are already touching villages, farms, and communities. For the first time, technology built at home is solving problems that once seemed permanent. Clean water in villages in the Sahel region. Water is life. For decades, many Burkinabé communities struggled with access to safe drinking water. Families often walked for hours to find wells. Even then, the water was not always clean. Diseases such as cholera and dysentery claimed countless lives. Children missed school because they spent their mornings fetching water. The new saltwater purification system is changing that reality. Built with locally available materials and powered by renewable energy, the units are designed to be affordable and durable. They can be installed in remote villages where infrastructure is limited. In one village near Dori, mothers now gather at a purification station where crystal clear water flows from taps. Children bring small containers, filling them with safe water before heading to class. Health workers report a sharp decline in cases of waterborne diseases. For families that once lived in fear of contaminated water, the difference is life-changing. One villager put it simply, before we prayed for rain. Now we have water every day, and it is clean. This is not just technology, it is dignity, it is survival. It is a gift of independence to communities long forgotten by the outside world. Farmers and the rise of drones agriculture is the backbone of Burkina Faso. The majority of its people depend on farming for survival, but farming has always been unpredictable. Rainfall is uncertain, pests destroy crops, yields are low compared to global averages. Now, farmers are seeing drones hover above their fields. These precision farming drones are programmed to analyze soil, detect pests, and guide irrigation. They can cover acres of farmland in minutes, saving farmers weeks of manual labor. They can spray organic pesticides with accuracy, reducing waste and protecting the environment. In a rural cooperative near Bobo, Dioulasso, farmers gather every week for drone demonstrations. Young technicians trained in Ouagadougou operate the drones and explain the data to farmers. They show which areas need water, which crops are ready for harvest, and which parts of the soil need fertilizer. The result is dramatic. Yields have increased by up to 40% in some test areas. Farmers who once harvested barely enough to feed their families are now producing surplus crops. They can sell at local markets and earn income for education, healthcare, and savings. One farmer smiled as he watched a drone fly above his maize field and said, "We thought drones were for the military. Now they feed us." This shift is historic. For the first time, African farmers are using African-built technology to fight hunger and poverty. It is not charity, it is empowerment. Electric trucks in action. Burkina Faso faces a constant struggle with insecurity. Its soldiers operate in difficult terrains, from arid deserts to rugged countryside. Mobility has always been a challenge. Vehicles imported from abroad were expensive, required fuel, and often broke down in harsh conditions. The locally built electric truck is a game changer. Designed specifically for Burkinabé terrain, it runs on renewable energy and requires minimal maintenance. Its military-grade design makes it durable and reliable. In the northern regions, soldiers now patrol silently in electric trucks. The absence of engine noise gives them a tactical advantage. The trucks carry troops and supplies across long distances without relying on imported fuel. Maintenance crews report fewer breakdowns compared to foreign vehicles. Beyond the military, the trucks are being adapted for civilian use. In Ouagadougou, pilot projects are testing electric trucks for transportation of goods. Market traders see them as cheaper alternatives to fuel-powered vehicles. If scaled, these trucks could reduce transport costs, cut emissions, and open new opportunities for trade within the country. For the soldiers who once struggled with unreliable vehicles, the trucks are more than machines. They are symbols of sovereignty. One officer said, "We are no longer waiting for spare parts from abroad. We are using what we built." A hope in classrooms. The impact of these inventions is not limited to villages, farms, or military bases. They are also inspiring the next generation. In schools and universities, students now see real examples of Burkinabé innovation. Science teachers use the purification system as a model to explain chemistry and engineering. Agricultural colleges study the drone technology as a case of applied science. Engineering students tour factories where trucks are being built. Enrollment in technical programs is rising. Young people who once dreamed only of leaving Burkina Faso now dream of building within it. They see a future where their skills can serve their communities, not just foreign employers. One student in Ouagadougou explained, "For the first time, I believe I can invent something here at home. We do not need to copy others. We can create our own." This change in mindset is priceless, because technology is not only about machines, it is about belief. And Burkina Faso has given its youth a reason to believe. Restoring dignity and confidence, perhaps the most powerful impact, is the restoration of dignity. For too long, Burkinabé citizens were told that solutions must come from abroad, that progress would arrive only through aid, loans, and imported ideas. Now, they are seeing proof that their own hands and minds can deliver answers. Clean water in villages, drones guiding farmers, electric trucks securing the nation. These are not abstract promises, they are daily realities. And with every drop of water, every drone flight, and every truck journey, the message grows stronger. Burkina Faso is not waiting anymore. It is building. Conclusion of impact. The inventions unveiled in Burkina Faso are not just machines. They are lifelines. They are classrooms of hope. They are engines of sovereignty. They remind the world that progress is not measured only in skyscrapers or billion-dollar corporations. Sometimes it is measured in a child drinking safe water for the first time. Sometimes it is measured in a farmer harvesting enough food to sell at the market. Sometimes it is measured in soldiers driving trucks they built themselves. This is the true revolution of Burkina Faso. Not just headlines, but lives transformed. This section will compare Burkina Faso's inventions with global giants like Tesla, SpaceX, and Western Eastern tech, showing why Elon Musk himself would be shocked at the scale and originality. When people hear the name Elon Musk, they think of innovation. Tesla, SpaceX, solar energy, artificial intelligence. He is seen as the face of futuristic technology. But now, a new story from West Africa has added a surprising twist. Burkina Faso, a nation once dismissed as dependent, is entering the same conversation. And this time, it is not as a consumer of foreign technology. It is as a producer. Tesla was Burkina Faso's electric truck. Tesla's electric cars revolutionized the global auto industry. They introduced sleek designs, powerful batteries, and self-driving capabilities. Elon Musk proved that electric vehicles could compete with and even surpass traditional fuel-powered cars. But Burkina Faso's electric truck is something different. It was not built for highways or luxury markets. It was built for survival. It was designed to operate in deserts, rough terrain, and areas with almost no infrastructure. Where Tesla's vehicles depend on sophisticated charging stations, Burkina Faso's trucks are engineered for renewable, decentralized energy. They can be recharged with portable solar systems in remote locations. They are not luxury models. They are tools for soldiers, farmers, and traders. This is what shocked observers. While Tesla focuses on futuristic cities, Burkina Faso has built for the realities of Africa. And in doing so, it has created a model that could be replicated in other developing nations. Vehicles that are simple, affordable, and durable, yet still electric. One analyst in Europe commented, "If Burkina Faso can build electric trucks for rural Africa, the global south has just been given a blueprint for independence from oil." A SpaceX verse. Drones for farming. Elon Musk's company SpaceX is aiming for Mars. It is building rockets that can leave Earth and colonize other planets. It is visionary, ambitious, and inspiring. Burkina Faso's drones do not aim for space, they aim for farms. But their impact is no less revolutionary. Instead of reaching other planets, they are saving lives on this one. Instead of exploring space, they are mapping fields. Instead of carrying astronauts, they are carrying hope for farmers. The comparison is striking. While the global elite dreams of interplanetary colonies, Burkina Faso is proving that the most urgent frontier is food security. A drone that helps a farmer double his yield can change a family's destiny more than a rocket launch to Mars. For African nations, Burkina Faso's drones are more relevant than any space race. They are immediate, they are practical, they are homegrown. This is why some experts argue that Burkina Faso's drones, though smaller in scale, may have a bigger human impact than billion-dollar rockets. Water purification vs. global tech giants, the third invention, the saltwater purification system, may not have the glamour of electric vehicles or rockets. But it may be the most powerful of all. Globally, billions of dollars are spent on complex water treatment plants, desalination factories, and advanced pipelines. Most of these are designed for wealthy nations with high infrastructure. They are not built for remote villages. Burkina Faso's invention fills that gap. It is simple. It is portable. It is designed for places where there is no grid, no factory, and no massive budget. This is what makes it revolutionary. It does not require international engineers. It does not require billion-dollar investments. It can be built and maintained locally. While tech giants chase profits, Burkina Faso's system is saving lives. And for millions of Africans, safe water is worth more than any luxury gadget. Why Elon Musk would be shocked? Elon Musk has often spoken about disruptive technology, ideas that completely transform industries. That is exactly what Burkina Faso has done. These inventions are disruptive not because they are the most advanced on the planet, but because they are the most relevant for Africa. They are built on a philosophy Musk himself embraces, solving problems others ignore. The electric truck disrupts dependency on oil. The drones disrupt low productivity in farming. The purification system disrupts the cycle of disease and poverty caused by unsafe water. All three share Musk's spirit of innovation, but are rooted in African realities. This is why many observers say he would be impressed, even shocked, because the ideas prove that world-changing technology can come from unexpected places. Global North vs. Global South innovation. For decades, the flow of technology has been one-directional from the West to Africa. Computers, vehicles, mobile phones, and medical equipment were all imported. Burkina Faso's inventions reverse that flow. They prove that innovation is not the monopoly of rich nations. They show that the global South can design technology suited for its own needs and potentially export it to the world. Imagine an African electric truck being used in rural parts of Asia. Imagine African drones guiding farms in Latin America. Imagine African purification systems being installed in disaster zones across the globe. This is no longer imagination. It is possible. And Burkina Faso has opened that door. The symbolism of comparison, the comparison with Elon Musk, is not about competition. It is about symbolism. Musk represents the peak of private innovation in the West. Burkina Faso represents the rise of state-supported innovation in Africa. Both are pioneers in their own context. But for the people of Burkina Faso, their inventions may matter more than Tesla cars or SpaceX rockets. Because they answer immediate needs, water, food, and security. For the first time, Africa is not just looking at the future through the eyes of others. It is defining its own future. A new balance of innovation. The world is entering a new era. Innovation is no longer concentrated in Silicon Valley, Tokyo, or Berlin. It is emerging in unexpected places: Kigali, Lagos, Nairobi, Ouagadougou. Burkina Faso has joined that list. It has proven that even without vast wealth, innovation is possible. Even without giant corporations, breakthroughs can be made. And this is what makes Elon Musk's shock so symbolic. Because it is not about one man being surprised, it is about the global recognition that Africa can invent, create, and lead. Conclusion of comparison: Elon Musk is still a symbol of global innovation. But now, Burkina Faso has become a symbol of African innovation. The two may seem worlds apart, one building rockets, the other building water systems. But both remind us of the same truth: innovation is about solving problems. And sometimes, the greatest innovation is not reaching Mars, it is giving a child clean water. It is helping a farmer grow food. It is giving soldiers a vehicle built by their own nation. That is why Burkina Faso's inventions are historic. Not because they compete with the West, but because they prove that Africa is no longer waiting. It is building its own future in its own way. This section will capture the mixed reactions from Europe. America and African nations, highlighting pride, skepticism, and fear of losing control. When Burkina Faso unveiled its 3 groundbreaking inventions, the world did not respond with one voice. The reactions were divided. Some were filled with pride, others were skeptical, and a few were quietly fearful. Reactions from the West in the United States, coverage was limited. Major media outlets mentioned the news briefly, often framing it as a local development. They did not dedicate the same attention they give to Elon Musk, Bill Gates, or Jeff Bezos. But within research institutes and think tanks, the tone was different. Analysts were surprised. Some admitted that they had underestimated Burkina Faso. Others questioned how a country with limited resources could achieve such results without Western assistance. In France, the reaction was sharper. Burkina Faso has recently cut ties with Paris, removing French troops and closing French-backed projects. For many in France, these inventions were seen not just as progress, but as defiance. An African nation showing independence without French helped challenge decades of influence. Commentators on French television warned that if Burkina Faso succeeds, other African nations might follow. In Germany, the discussion centered on renewable energy and sustainability. Some experts praised the electric truck as a model of innovation in low-resource environments. German media outlets asked whether Europe could learn from Burkina Faso's approach to appropriate technology, tools designed to match local realities rather than global markets. In Britain, a more skeptical tone was common. Editorials suggested that while the inventions were impressive, it remained unclear whether they could scale. The message was simple admiration mixed with doubt. Reactions from Africa across Africa, the reaction was completely different. The announcement was met with excitement, pride, and celebration. In Mali, Burkina Faso's close ally, government officials congratulated President Ibrahim Traoré publicly. State television broadcast images of the electric truck and the purification system. Commentators described the moment as the rebirth of African innovation. In Ghana, local newspapers praised the drones as a solution to food security. One headline read, "If Burkina Faso can do it, so can we." University students in Accra shared videos discussing how their country could replicate such efforts. In Nigeria, social media exploded with discussions. Young innovators called the Inventions a wake-up call for Africa's largest economy. They asked why smaller nations were leading while Nigeria, with more resources, lagged behind. The debate spread across TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. In South Africa, technology forums praised Burkina Faso's approach. They argued that the continent must focus less on copying Western luxury models and more on building practical, homegrown solutions. The message was clear: Africa does not need another Silicon Valley. It needs its own path, the voice of the people. But perhaps the most powerful reaction came not from governments or analysts, but from ordinary people. In villages where the purification system was tested, mothers spoke with relief. They said their children were drinking safe water for the first time. They said the invention was worth more to them than any imported aid package. In rural farms where drones were used, farmers spoke with joy. They described how they could now plant with precision. They said they felt like they had stepped into the future without leaving their soil. And among the Burkinabé soldiers who tested the electric truck, there was pride. For once, they were driving vehicles built by their own nation, not leftovers from foreign armies. These voices captured the heart of the story. For ordinary Africans, the inventions were not just machines. They were symbols of dignity, proof that their nations could build solutions with their own hands. Western skepticism and fear, not all Western reactions, were friendly. Some analysts warned that if Africa begins producing its own technology, it could reduce reliance on imports. That would weaken Western economic influence. In one European newspaper, a commentator wrote, "If African nations adopt their own electric trucks and purification systems, Western corporations may lose billions in potential contracts." This quiet fear was not about technology itself, it was about control. For centuries, Africa was viewed as a market, not a competitor. Now, Burkina Faso had changed that equation. A divided global narrative, the global narrative quickly split into two. In the West, the story was often minimized. It was described as promising but limited, a polite way of saying, do not take it too seriously. In Africa, the story was magnified. It was told with pride. It was described as the beginning of a new era. This contrast revealed more than just different opinions. It revealed a deeper struggle. The struggle over how Africa is seen. Is it still a continent waiting for help? Or is it a continent ready to lead? President Traore's role, much of the reaction focused on one man, Ibrahim Traoré. For supporters, he is a hero, a leader proving that African nations can stand without dependence, a man inspiring a generation of youth to innovate. For critics, he is a disruptor, a leader who challenges Western dominance and dares to chart a new course. To them, his push for innovation is not just about technology. It is about political independence. In either case, his role is undeniable. Without his vision and insistence on self-reliance, these inventions may not have emerged. Africa's growing confidence, the biggest impact of the inventions, may not be the machines themselves. It may be the confidence they have sparked. In schools, young Africans are asking new questions. Why should innovation come only from abroad? Why not from us? In governments, leaders are considering new policies. If Burkina Faso can build, why not Mali, Ghana, or Senegal? If Burkina Faso can invent, why not the whole continent? Confidence is contagious. And Burkina Faso has spread it across Africa. Conclusion of reactions, the world's reactions reveal a historic moment. The West is cautious, skeptical, even worried. Africa is proud, inspired, and ready to dream bigger. Burkina Faso has forced the world to pay attention, not through war, not through protest, but through invention. And in doing so, it has reminded both Africa and the world of a powerful truth. Innovation has no borders. Great ideas can come from anywhere, even from a small landlocked nation once written off as dependent. The reactions prove one thing. Burkina Faso has not just built machines. It has built a new narrative. This will close the narrative with inspiration, dignity, and a vision for Africa's future. Burkina Faso has surprised the world. It has built inventions that many thought were impossible for a small landlocked African nation. A water purification system, an electric military truck, agricultural drones. Each invention carries its own importance, but together they carry something greater, a new vision for Africa. A new chapter in Africa's story. For centuries, the story of Africa was told by others. It was written in European capitals. It was framed by foreign powers. It described Africa as dependent, weak, and incapable of progress without outside help. But today, that story is breaking. Burkina Faso has shown that Africa does not need to wait for permission to rise. It does not need to beg for solutions. It can build them. This is not only about machines. It is about identity. It is about reclaiming dignity. It is about proving that innovation can come from the heart of Africa. The power of leadership behind these inventions stands a young leader, Ibrahim Traoré. At just 36 years old, he has done what few expected. He has challenged his people to believe in themselves. He has demanded independence, not only politically, but technologically. His vision is simple. Africa must stop waiting. Africa must start building. This vision has lit a fire in the hearts of young Africans. From Dakar to Nairobi, from Lagos to Johannesburg, students are asking themselves, if Burkina Faso can do this, why not us? Traore has shown that leadership is not just about speeches. It is about action. It is about giving people the tools to rise. The ripple effect, the inventions of Burkina Faso are already inspiring neighbors. Mali and Niger, allies in the Sahel,